All right, you're listening to MWM Podcast Book Series, and we are going to talk about another book in this episode. But we have a special guest, recurring guest, Mr. Zaigam is coming for his second episode on Books Podcast. So let's hear from Zaigam.
Hi. Thanks for having me again. I'm so excited to talk about another book on your podcast.
Okay, Zaigam. So what do we have here after The Old Man and the Sea?
I want to talk about Dune today, which is one of my favorite, not only one of my favorite science fiction books, but one of my favorite books as well.
Okay, Dune for people. I think the people would be more popular with the movie now because now that it's been made into a movie and second part has come. So Dune is actually a novel by Frank Herbert. It's around almost like 1,000 pages.
Yeah, around 1,000 pages.
Yeah, it's a tome actually, a huge heavy book. Like all the Harry Potter books are gelled into one. So yeah, Dune is a science fiction book. Let's hear more from Zygam.
Sure. So, Dune, it was written back in the 60s by Frank Herbert, and though it's a science fiction book, but it's a different kind of science fiction wherein you won't really find all those sci-fi aspects a lot, like laser beams and spaceships and all those things, and it's kind of like medieval as well, like the story, but um, also very futuristic. How can I say it? It's like everything is very mechanical because in this story, people have abandoned AI and everything artificial that was there. So yeah, that's what it's about.
So tell us about the story and the characters.
Yeah, so Dune is about this young boy named Paul Atreides, who belongs to this house. So in the near future, what happened was that humans, they scattered all over the universe, and they rule different planets now. And each planet is ruled by these different houses. So there's House Atreides, there's House Harkonnen, and something called House Corino. And who is like the head of the House Corino is the emperor of the entire universe. So Paul Atreides, he is a young boy who is from House Atreides, and the emperor, he asks the ruler of House Atreides to go and get this planet called Arrakis, which is also called Dune. And the special thing about Arrakis is that it's the only planet in the universe where you get this substance called spice. Spice is like sort of like a psychedelic substance, which is literally in the atmosphere of that planet. And once you inhale spice or take spice, you are addicted for a lifetime. And in this universe, spice makes you, like, keeps you young. It never gets lets you get old. And it's also like the gasoline of this universe. So all the spaceships and everything works on spice. So it all revolves around this thing called spice, and everybody's fighting for it. And it's pretty interesting.
Yeah, I got reminded of some interesting facts. You know, the European colonization of Southeast Asian countries was mainly because of spice. They wanted to get spice and trade spices. So that's how they ended up colonizing India and other countries. So this seems to be like based on human history, but visualized and imagined in a very wide form. Basically, you're talking about planet. So the Dune is actually a planet.
Dune is the planet. The original name is Arrakis, the planet's name. It's like a desert planet. It's very barren, but it's the only place where spice is found. And as you mentioned that the colonialism and stuff. So yeah, the analogy is absolutely there. And I read that Frank Herbert, when he started writing this book, he traveled to the Middle East and saw like whatever was going on there. So the analogy of oil in our real world is to that of water in this world. Like water here is like, and like more important than anything you can imagine. And then there's of course spice. Yeah.
Oh, nice. So, you said that there's a young man who's the protagonist of the story. Apart from him, so there are any other characters?
Oh, there's so many characters. Like you won't be able to digest because there's so many characters right at the beginning of it. Like the author will throw all these names at you, and you'll be like, "What? What is this character? And how do you even pronounce this? The name?" There's things like Gom Jawar and Kwisatz Haderach. I was like, when I was first reading, I was like, "How do you even pronounce this?" There's this cult of women. It's called Bene Gesserit. Bene Gesserit is this like organization who is working behind the scenes. Like they're actually controlling everything. The emperor, he thinks that he's the real king, but Benny Gesserit is actually controlling it like him like a puppet, and they have their own motivations, and they just, I don't know, they are very skilled and very manipulative, and they have their own intentions. And once you read, you'll know what I'm talking about.
It's very interesting when you depict incidents or the events from the book, because I kind of get reminded of a lot of Hollywood movies have drawn inspiration from this book, right?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. And offline, I remember you mentioned that Star Wars actually took inspiration from this.
Yeah, they took a lot of inspiration from Dune. Even the planet of Tatooine, which is in Star Wars, they took inspiration from this. And George Lucas himself has accepted that he did like Star Wars did get inspired from Dune. So there are a lot of aspects that are there. Sure.
Okay, this is going to be a definitely a stupid question. So it's about 1,000 pages long. So how long did you take it to finish reading?
Okay, so I have read this book around 3 times now. So, like 2 times I read the actual physical copy, and one time I just listened to the entire audiobook. Also, the audiobook on Audible, it's like it's brilliant. You have to listen to that audiobook. It's so immersive that you'll get lost in that universe. And so yeah, I mean, I the first time I think I took like 2 or 3 months to finish it because, to be honest, initially I found it a little boring because once you start, I'm like, what am I even reading? But once the story picks up, right, it just the pages they bleed together very nicely, and the ending, oh my god, it's like so good. I don't want to spoil it for you, but it's the ending is like epic.
Okay, so I'm a huge fan of this science fiction space concept. So I've been watching Star Trek original series and other series. So my question is, as you have told, there are a lot of subplots in the movie. So do you have aliens, having friendship with humans, working together, collaborating?
As for aliens, they haven't mentioned. Maybe in the future books there are 6 parts actually. This is the first part. So I did hear that in the future parts the aliens do come. But what's special about this is that we are so far into the future that humans themselves have transformed into this alien species sort of thing. So there are these creatures called mentats who have replaced AI. They have build themselves their mind to this extent that they can do like very complex equations and mathematical equations in the blink of an eye and in seconds. So we don't even need computers anymore. You just tell them what you want, like what calculations you want, and they'll tell you in seconds. And then there's Benny Gesserits and stuff who have like mastered the human body to such an extent that they are almost superhuman by now. So those are the aliens.
Yeah, I can see that you have this book etched in your mind. All those complex names and concepts you can clearly explain. So, apart from all this fancy science fiction aspects and the characterization and subplots, what else is special about this book?
Okay, so part of the reason that I love this book is actually not like really about the sci-fi. The sci-fi stuff is epic, and it's really I am very fascinated by it. But what makes it special is, let me tell you. So, at its core, Dune is about religious fanaticism, which is like you shouldn't trust all these charismatic leaders just because the world does. You should always question them. And in an interview, Frank Herbert, the author, he was asked like, why did he write Dune? So he wrote this as a warning. So at that time, I think JFK or somebody was the president, or I'm not sure exactly, but he just wanted to like make people aware not to trust charismatic leaders blindly. Like you can just see that they have no flaws, but at the end of the day they're human, right? And everybody is flawed. So yeah, it's about the questioning, and it's also about a lot of other things. It's about ecology and protecting the planet, and colonialism, which you mentioned. It's definitely there because these guys Harkonnens, they just go to this planet, and this planet, the regional people of the planet Dune are Fremen, who are like the desert people, and they get exploited a lot because they know the planet and they have the spice. So yeah, it's all about that.
So they must be aliens, right? This species who lives on Dune.
No, even they are human. Even they are human.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean it's fascinating to listen about Dune. I've not watched the movie, guys, because I am saving it to read the book first. Because Harry Potter, I missed it. I watched the movies and I'm still longing to read those books. But Dune, I'm like very stubborn that I want to read the book first and then watch the movie. So he has watched the movie as well. So let's hear from a bibliophile perspective, was you? I mean, were you satisfied with the movie?
I was absolutely satisfied. Like this movie, the recent adaptation, which was directed by Denis Villeneuve, who is a French Canadian filmmaker, and every single film he's ever made is like a masterpiece. I'm telling you, like you should watch his entire filmography. He is a real author. So. I mean, Dune is infamous for a book that can't be like it was infamous that could not be translated into a film, and David Lynch tried doing that in like the 80s, and it didn't go very well. As you can see, like not a lot of people even knew about the movie. But recently, so Denis Villeneuve has directed such a masterpiece of work. Part one was amazing, and I just can't wait to watch part two. I'm so excited, and so yeah, that's
Yeah, I mean, it's a very layered story. Like you have to peel and understand, and initially it's slow. It's slow, you said. So yeah, but it's definitely worth it. It's in that league of fiction. You know, Harry Potter, Lord of the Rings, that fiction, and finally they have made a movie about it. So have you read? How many books are there in the series?
I guess the original series it has around 6 books, which was authored by the author like Frank Herbert only. But then some later books are there as well, which his son has written. But yeah, the entire original arc is I think it has 6 books.
Okay.
Yeah,
So how many books have you read?
I have read the first part 3 times, and I am currently reading Dune Messiah, which is like the third part. Also, I heard there's gonna be another movie which will be based on Dune Messiah. So yeah, and also, so Dune doesn't conclude this entire story. The conclusion comes in the third part, which is Dune Messiah. So you must read Dune Messiah as well.
Okay. So how did you end up reading this book or getting this book recommended?
Huh? Let me think, man. Um, so yeah, as I told you, right, I'm a huge fan of Denis Villeneuve, and I was just exploring his filmography. I watched Blade Runner 2049 and all those other movies he directed, like Arrival. Arrival is such a good movie. Then I like a few years ago, I just got to know that he is doing a movie called Dune. At that time, I had no idea what it was. So I just researched and got to know, oh, it's a science fiction book, and I was pretty fascinated once I read the premise and stuff. And I just looked at the cover art, and the cover art of the hardcover was so like enigmatic, and I just went ahead and bought the book, and the rest is history.
Yeah, it's amazing. The cover art is really attractive. I have the book, so and I'm seeing the book as well. Okay, as usual, the one question that I ask for all the guest speakers: if any bibliophile or person who's planning to read, or why should they pick up this book?
Sure, sure. So I mean, I can understand like not a lot of people do like read science fiction because it can get a little bit what to say technical or nerdy. But then, as I said, Dune is different, and it's not really very hardcore sci-fi as well. So even if you're into fantasy and stuff, you can definitely pick it up. And initially, you may find a little bit hard to stay engaged because there's so many characters, so much world building. But as I said, once you're past that, like halfway through or something, it just flows so smoothly. And so, if you ask me, why should one read it? So, as I said, it's like a warning against religious fanaticism. So it teaches you to think for yourself. And I mean, so there's this quote from this great sci-fi author. His name was Sir Arthur C. Clarke. He said something like, "Science fiction, it's not about the future," or something like that. He said, "It's not about predicting the future, but preventing a future." So yeah, it's sort of like a warning. So it's not impossible that these kind of things may not happen. So it just gives you a glimpse into the future, so that dystopian future doesn't happen with us. So
Yeah, we are seeing the future AI revolutionizing
yeah.
2024. So yeah, thank you so much for bringing a very popular book, and not many people might know that Dune was actually a book, right? So for
Hmm.
movie buffs, definitely I don't think they'll have an idea that there was a book. But yeah, it's a book that you must read, Dune, if you're a fan of science fiction, space. Then yeah, it's available in Amazon and any store near your town. So do purchase it and read it. And thank you so much, Zaigam. Second episode, and I hope you will be returning for more such favorite books of yours.
Absolutely, absolutely. I had a blast talking about it. I'm looking forward to talk more about such books and movies for sure.
Yeah. Thank you for listening, guys. You will hear from me in another episode with more guest speakers and favorite books. Until then, you are listening to MWM Podcast Books. I'm MaddiE. Bye bye.